Good morning and welcome to the new edition of my live comments. Yesterday was the last debate of Ontario election, and what we heard from the debate just reconfirms what we have been saying all the time: a very depressing, a very desperate Ontario election scene. The three parties contesting elections in Ontario show that everything here is pear-shaped. Just in these 5 months, they have proved beyond any doubt that none of them deserves to govern the province. Why? Why is it that it's not so? And yesterday, when I listened and watched the debate and read about it, I fully agree with all the leaders when they attack each other like a pack of dogs let loose. Ford does not have a plan. The Liberals have already made a mess, and the NDPs are scary. We are ever fearful of what they might do, remembering what Bob Ray had done in his time. I belong to that generation where the Wonder Years War, the Cold War conflicts, and the threat of the nuclear exchange. And if a politician or a social warrior made waves, they were no longer alive. We saw Watergate, we saw price controls, we saw the wars, and we saw the Iron Ladies, the three Iron Ladies at the same time. But if I compare that period, then we find that Ontario during 1960s and 70s was in fact a political version of antidepressant drugs that kept us warm. You can surely call it a big blue machine, and especially under the tenure, the reign of Progressive Party, PC, under Brampton's Bill Davis, whom I had the pleasure of meeting when I was on the board of the Toronto Mississauga Board of Trade. I wasn't aware of any backroom machinations on Ontario political process at that time. And it seemed that the government collected its taxes and fees, determined where they were needed, and we got infrastructure, healthcare, and subway station. Fast forward, move to 2018, the present. And everything, as I said earlier, has gone pear-faced. I'm reminded of a movie which was released the year I moved to Canada, Elections, by a very acclaimed director, Alexander Payne, and starring Reese Witherspoon as Tracy Flick, an over-ambitious politician. Flick, as I said, was repellent. The pompous teacher, Jim McAllister, wanted to convince that he should run a race. And complicating things was his sister Tammy, a religious goth who decides to run down solely to bring the system down from inside. There are shades of Kathleen Wynne, Andrea Howard, and Doug Ford in this movie. Three horrible choices on one ballot. And can you believe, when I heard Kathleen say, sorry but no sorry for what she had done, where if I total the number of dollars which are involved in Davis Fred, would cost more than $200,000 million. Billion. Until and unless you are a partisan in the elections, there are three choices. Ontario Liberals is not evil like Tricia the movie, but she is despised by many. progressive conservative Doug Ford is inarticulate in his message, which he doesn't release. He is Paul the Jock. And Andrea Howard, NDP's promise of social justice, deficit, had very clear declaration of making Ontario a sanctuary province, would bring the system down from inside. Why? Why is it that we have such a paucity and bankruptcy of ideas? All three parties are climbing over each other with the promise of free this and free that. They have platform costs which are entirely wrong, and they will never arrive at that. They are the nomination tactics that were either corrupt or undemocratic. And the current party leaders are blaming the stink in the air on the previous leaders, forgetting that they were a part of the same system. With just 1 week or 10 days away from the vote, I cannot remember any campaign, either here in Canada or in India, which was so depressing, which was so desperate, and so dumb. I'm a part of the demographic cohort that makes life unlivable with the hydro costs, the property taxes, the insurances going through the top, where the emergency in the hospitals extends into days and the weeks, and where we have one of the contenders of being a lawmaker quoting Adolf Hitler, until and unless we see that Andrea Howard sports that. And that is disappointing. Imagine a candidate showing Hitler standing in a car, giving it a Nazi salute, and including an inspirational quote from Nazi leader that if you don't like the rules, get into power and change them. And that's what NDP plans to do. Despite the fact that as several steps and consistent thoughts, these leaders have not thought fit to come to the basic terms what this election is about, and that's a good governance. When Kathleen Wynne says sorry but not sorry, she is not in any way assuring that her governance would be for the common good. Doug Ford came like lightning when Patrick Brown was thrown out. And I had high hopes that he'll do something. But what happened with Sumer in Mississauga, Brampton, but what happened with Sanawar Dhillon, what happened with 3 police teams of different places, blaming them for theft of data from 407, and there is no plausible reason or excuse put forward by Douglas Ford that we can have faith in him. And as I said, the typical enhancement in the voting, as for the poll numbers show in NDP, is scary. This decibel shoe could be Kathleen Wynne or Doug Ford, but NDP has not insisted as yet on the offensive post, or perhaps could have seen. And she's defending him, the lady, Riaz. She's defending because she says, well, it's a freedom of speech. And that is exactly the point which I'm making, that the freedom of speech does not mean quoting and holding Hitler as a model. Because Riaz's meme and the Facebook post clearly shows that Hitler is their hero. And that's the worst thing. So we have a choice between not so clear and confused Doug Ford proven incapability of Kathleen Wynne, and horrible, horrible future of NDP. It's a low bar. But then if I look at the NDP team, I'm really shocked. Why? We are shocked because the whole team is like that. Imagine one of them, Howard, says and agrees with that our soldiers, the Canadian soldiers, were in the business of slaughtering innocent people. Were they? Another person says, one candidate, that we have been killing people all over, especially in Afghanistan. And let's meet the team now. There's a candidate from Mississauga Center, Laura Comnica, and she calls herself a Marxist. Good enough. But she refuses to wear a poppy and considers Remembrance Day as a war glorification. How would you like such an MPP to represent you who hates your army that protects you? She also supports 9/11 conspiracy theory, and there is no proof that Bin Laden or Al-Qaeda had anything to do with it. Can you believe a person who has such views? And then, next candidate from Hamilton Mountain, MPP Monique Taylor, she says, and she admits that she created a toxic workplace by sexual exploitation of the employees. Hamilton East Stony Creek, MPP Paul Miller is under investigation for routine, racist, sexist, and homophobic comments. Paramjit Gill from Brampton South, he updated sex education curriculum as sexual abuse, and the spellings of sexual were SCX-SUAL. How educated that MPP is for you to judge, not for me. Richmond Hill candidate Marco Coleto calls for a 15% cut to the teachers' salaries. And the teachers, as I said earlier once, deserve to be paid much more than the politicians. She doesn't say cut the politicians' salaries, but cut the teachers' salaries. If that was enough, I would not say, but then comes another candidate from Kenora, Rainy River, Glenn Archer. He wants the old Mughal order saying that the enemies of the party should, like Premier Wynne, should be in jail. There is a gaggle of anti-Israel posts to the several candidates, including Beach, New York candidate Rima Burns, who wrote that following a visit to South Africa, she was born, she is always known as black. There is another one, Burns McGowan. She referred to the Israeli efforts to boycott, to defend themselves as state terrorism, but not the Pakistan attitude in protecting the terrorists. She doesn't criticize that. Another candidate, Chandra Pasma from Ottawa, jobs should not be guaranteed and there should be no increase in jobs, as if the government responsibility is not to provide jobs, but the responsibility is to provide welfare. Another candidate, Jessica Bell, she is a sort of how-to guide to radicals calling for economic shutdown of the province, property destruction, destroy the property, then rebuild it so the jobs will be created. Then comes another candidate from Etobicoke Centre NDP, Erica Kelly. She says that gun nuts, the lovers of guns, should be killed, blown up by a drone. This is horrible, horrible. And then, there's the candidate, Morgan, who is an erotic performance artist in every racy, sexually explicit poems. And you can see the performance on Spotify. Mississauga candidate, Malton candidate, Nikki Clark, has a jewelry company called Beads for Health, and she promotes all sorts of superstitions, saying that the jewelry made from quartz can cure arthritis, improve circulation, and whatnot, and all that is not scientifically viable. Then there is another candidate from Kitchener South. I'm referring to Hespler Fitz Vanderpool, and she says that he was wrestling with female wrestlers. Now, Howard justifies our candidates oily wrestling with nubile young women and dickneys on the ground, that is a professional boxer. So we need these boxers and sexually oriented boxers in our House of Commons? I regret all that is there. There is in fact an increasingly clear NDP circus in the town. So on one side you have horrifying NDP circus. On the other side you have Ford, whose team consists of data stealers. We are not sure about others, but at least 3 have been shown to be guilty of that. And Kathleen Wynne, the proven incompetent premier. Whom do you choose? Is a Hobson's choice. There's no choosing the lesser evil. We need a new party, or one of these parties restructured. We need new leadership. But 1 week is there, and we will not have a good party governing Ontario, and thereby rubs the tape. I feel sad for Ontarians. Lord, where are we going? Is Ontario at one time the best province of Canada going to become the beggar's bowl? Or is it going to be a replica of a third world country or a banana republic? Imagination is something which sends a shudder down my spine. Well, I would have confined myself to that, but one of my friends wanted me to comment on Tony Robinson, who was arrested in London and within a period of 24 years sent to 13 months of jail. His fault. He was live streaming a trial of some terrorists, and that was considered to be a crime. Since when is reporting a trial a crime? The swiftness with which he was arrested, summarily tried and sentenced to 13 months of jail is a shock that the days of the free speech are over until and unless you happen to be a politician who can make speeches quoting Hitler. Until and unless you happen to belong to that group which is leaning towards terrorism. And then it's a freedom of speech. But if you expose those people, then you are guilty of aiding and abetting terrorism. Rapists have the right to full and fair trial, but not a citizen journalist. Verily, the whole world is going RE. Sometimes I feel, are we going for the good? But then I have a feeling that when we go down to the depths and we can go no further, then we go up. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that light is you, the voter. Think about it. Thank you.